Yo, what's up, guys? C2 Wrestling back with another video. We are just wheeling and dealing right now. If you haven't listened to our podcast, episode 2 just came out on Thursday, where we fantasy book NXT and TNA Worlds Collide. Go give that a watch, then come back here because we've got to talk about the big dog. And we can call him the big dog now that he's face again. It's no longer an insult. He's still our tribal chief, but it's the big dogs. No, we knew he was coming back.
hmm
You assumed he would be face because of how much of a heel how much of a heel Solo is. Yeah, you've turned on me. Isn't it still kind of weird to be like, yeah, Roman Reigns, the baby face?
Man, it's almost surreal to see him back. And again, we knew he was coming back. Most people did. Again, predictability is not bad if done well. And it was done great. Roman's back. The big dog is back. But more importantly, our OTC, original tribal chief. I've seen some people call it our tribal chief original. All right, get real. But he's back. It's insane to have him come back as a baby face. This is and I know he was a face before, but this is the Cena heel turn that we never got in a Roman face turn almost. His bloodline heel championship run was almost I'm a heel forever type run. So it's crazy to see that they actually worked it back in a way where he's face again or going to be. I guess he is a little bit of this in betweener right now, being he gave Cody that point. He wants Cody again, but we're going to touch on all that. It's just crazy to see. Is it too soon? Maybe. I've seen some people debate that as well. But regardless, I'm happy to have him back. What are you thinking after seeing him come back on SummerSlam?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some meat left on the bone with him being a heel, but not a lot. Like, not so much to where you're like, we need a few more years of him being heel. I mean, he was heel for like 4.5 years, basically. I know he had plenty of times where he wasn't on TV every single week, so that helped kind of elongate it. But WWE right now, it's so babyface heavy that was my only worry with him becoming a face. Like, they have such strong faces, so many guys that are so unbelievably over. But Roman is also in that, he's in that, for lack of a better term, over category where it doesn't matter if he's heel, it doesn't matter if he's face. His merch is going to sell like hotcakes. He's going to be flying on a private jet because he can't go out in public without being bothered. Like, he is over as can be. Like, he is one of the
Oh
main
yeah.
names. So him turning face doesn't affect his popularity. He's beloved already. It is weird that he is face now, and Solo is supposed to be this believable heel. So it brings this great question. Now that he's back, we expected him back. And this is not so much fantasy booking, but more so thinking out loud. His future, and not only his path to WrestleMania 41, but WrestleMania 42, 43, because he's not going to be face for just 4 months, 5 months. You'd assume he's going to be face for a decent time period. So I bring it to you. You know some of the main matches. Which ones like jump out to you now that he's faced? Like, this is storyline wise, we have to have this. And as a fan, I want to see this.
You know, I understand people maybe not clamoring over a Reigns versus Solo match, but I want to see that. I think we should see that. And I think we will. That is the first Roman match I want to see since his last match at Mania 40. I think Roman versus Solo is the most must see out of any Roman match we can get right now, which there's a lot of opportunity. It like the people immediately involved in the bloodline feud, Solo, Cody, Roman, like obviously those names come right up. But Roman, you said as a heel, there was a little bit more meat on the bone still, sure. There's a lot of meat on the bone with him as a face again. I do want to mention just briefly that Roman's face turn, in turn, will cause a face to turn heel on SmackDown or Raw. Because, like you said, the shows are so babyface heavy. Now, when you got Roman back as a face, we're getting that or in mega heel turn or something down the line. And hey, maybe Roman's involved in that too. But I'm going to leave it at Roman Solo for me right now is the most must see. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I have said on this channel that I want to see Roman Solo. I know there's a loud either minority or majority, we don't know yet, that is against Solo. I like him. I've said on this channel that I want Roman Solo and I want Solo to beat him in their first match to help establish Solo as a credible heel, a credible opponent, but also one of the top level guys. Because now he's getting the reaction,
Mm-hmm. He
he's
is.
getting the boos. It's kind of similar in my mind to Dom,
Mm-hmm.
where he's getting the reaction. Now we just need to make him believable. And a win over Roman does that. And
Mm-hmm.
also, that builds towards the inevitable rematch where Roman would eventually beat him. So I
Correct.
agree. I want Roman Solo, but there's just so many avenues now that you can go. You're probably at some point going to get a multi-man match where it's Roman, Jimmy, Jay, maybe Sammy against this Bloodline 2.0. You probably will get the one-on-one match between Roman and Solo. My wondering is, and this goes to the more so thinking out loud rather than fantasy booking, as soon as that ends, is that where you get Roman versus Jacob Fatu? Or is that something you try to keep off a little bit and keep building up Jacob Fatu as this devastating guy? Because in a way, it is kind of similar to a story of Roman Solo. You know, you don't want that to be too close. And we also know the biggest match that for right now never was Roman versus The Rock. And it feels like right now we're at a point where we're gonna get Roman versus Solo and we're gonna get The Rock versus Cody. Do we then get the meeting of the two?
So I'm going to mention a few things here. I'm going to start with Fatu. I think you do your best to separate Fatu and Roman for a while. I don't need to see them really do anything together for a minute. The highlight right now is on Roman versus Solo, where I'm going to book out a little bit right here. This is the way my mind works just in this conversation. Roman versus Solo is built for bad blood. That whole pay per view, bringing the name back, that is a blood rivalry show. It's going to be Drew versus Punk. It's going to be Roman versus Solo. It's going to be blood feuds. It makes sense to have that match happen there rather than maybe Saudi or whatever other shows follow that. The Rumble seems far out for Roman versus Solo, considering they had him come back, what is 6 months prior to the Rumble, 7 months now that it's pushed into February. But I think what you do is that I think you can even have Solo go over Roman like you want. I do also think that's the right move to have Solo get that win. But I think the deeper story here, and maybe there's some follow up at War Games, some Bloodline versus old Bloodline kind of follow up. But somehow, one way or another, you have to end with Roman getting that title rematch against Cody. I think that is must see. And I think that is how you then set up Roman's future. It almost writes itself, in my opinion, to somehow have this turn into a War Games match. Old bloodline, call it Roman, Jimmy J. And I know people want Sammy. I'd love it. But Cody makes more sense right now. Roman, Jimmy J, Cody versus Solo, Fatu, Tama, and Tangaloa. Bloodline versus old bloodline. Somehow, one way or another, you then turn that into Cody versus Roman at the Rumble for the title, in which you get the mega return of The Rock, who stops Roman from winning. I'm not going to let you beat Roman. I said I was coming for that belt, or I'm not going to let you beat Cody. I said I'm coming for that belt. I'm going to be the one that takes the belt off. Ultimately, setting up Roman versus Rock in Vegas. I think that makes sense. There's a million other ways they can go about it, but that is a path to Roman versus Rock if that is their ultimate goal.
My only question with that is where would Rock Cody then slide in?
Yes, that's the problem. I think that's kind of the question either way is if, let's say, Mania 41 is Rock versus Cody, then when do you do Rock versus Roman? If Mania 41 is Rock versus Roman, then when do you do Rock versus Cody? It's kind of tough to make both of those matches happen within a time frame that makes sense.
And also, you have The Rock, who Mania 42 is, you know, a year and a half to 2 years away.
Mm,
Who knows what kind of shape he'll be in? He's getting up there in age. He looked good at WrestleMania, but 2 years from now, this we may as well be in a different world.
yeah,
He could be getting ready to run for president or something,
it
start
could.
his
Yeah.
presidential campaign.
Huh.
We don't know. I think this is the good problem to have if you're WWE.
Yeah.
You're now at a point where you have so many marquee matches
Yeah. You
that
do.
you have almost too many. And this is where, when we talked about those smaller shows are no longer smaller shows, this is where you have to elevate them with those marquee matches. People forget, look, Money in the Bank to me is kind of a top four match, top four pay per view.
Pay per view. Yeah.
We saw Bloodline Civil War at Money in the Bank. That feels like a SummerSlam match. Maybe not a Mania match, but that's like a SummerSlam type main
Mm,
event. And we got that at Money in the Bank. So for me, if we got Roman Cody rematch, not at a big four, like I still would understand that.
yeah.
I think it makes more sense having the trilogy be a Mania match, but there's even a path that you have that match be at 42 and Roman Rock does happen at 41. Going off of your hypothetical, maybe The Rock comes back and is going for Cody and Roman gets in the way.
Hmm.
Whatever. That sets up their match there. And then it further down the line leads to Roman Cody again. I mean, it's a great problem to have. You have all
Yeah.
these marquee matches.
Absolutely. It is the best problem to have. There's been many years where they have the opposite of this problem and they have no marquee matches, and those shows aren't too memorable. So, this is a great problem to have. I think the ultimate plan is to keep The Rock heel. It's been great, it worked really well. Heel Rock versus this mega babyface Roman now is going to go hard. It's going to be great. So, I think that is the ultimate plan: is how do you get Roman there? But how do you keep him involved? Like, what do you do? How do you fill it up? You still got, again, months until Mania. So you have Roman versus Solo. You can drag that out a bit. You have War Games. You have potential Roman versus Cody, in which I agree. Not these matches don't always have to be at big four or big five pay per views. I hope they aren't always at big four or big fives because you do want to spread that wealth around of these shows. It is so nice when you can tune into a backlash and get a stellar show. We went to a backlash a matter of years ago, and it was probably the worst wrestling event I've been to live. So I'll take these star-studded, spectacular backlashes over what was it, 2018 backlash? I don't remember,
I don't
but
know. That
oof,
was
that was a
bad
rough
though.
one. That was a rough one, yeah. But I'm looking forward to what's coming up. Rock versus Roman is the ultimate goal to me. I do feel like if that happens, I'm like I need Rock versus Cody though. Rock versus Cody is also like some mega match, but it's tough to work it all in together. Bad Blood again, I think is made for Roman Solo. I want to start there. I think that's where we get that. If we do get Roman versus Solo, which we're going to, when do you think we get that? Where does that fall in place for you?
I think Bad Blood does make sense. It's not too close and it's
Hmm.
not too far away. It is kind of in that sweet spot. Again, you don't know with Roman's schedule. It He might not be on every week. That could be a match that ends up main eventing Survivor Series. Like that's not outlandish where, Roman shows up on SmackDown in 2, 3 weeks or is looking to face Solo and the entire bloodline jumps him and he's gone for 2, 3 weeks. Like that, it's only 2 or 3 episodes. It feels like a long time, but it's not that crazy to kind of drag that out to get you to a Survivor Series or something like that. You do also have, when we're talking about buying time, obviously he's going to face Solo. You do also have storylines where Roman Reigns was the most egotistical, psychotic person ever, and now he's a babyface. That doesn't mean everybody just immediately likes him. So you do have the storylines. This is where I could see you mentioned someone's probably going to turn. Maybe it's Orton. maybe a Kevin Owens. Maybe he turns and he's kind of sick of Cody shakes hands with Roman and KO sits here and says, I've been fighting these guys for years to help you. And now you're just going to shake this guy's hand just because he showed up and is against you're doing the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's where you could get one of those guys to turn. And it could potentially lead to a fresh feud for Cody or Roman. I feel like there are so many directions to go with Roman, but all paths go through Solo.
for sure.
It
Yeah,
feels crazy to say.
it does feel crazy to say because Solo, not even 3 years in the company, and he's so involved in this bloodline Roman storyline, everything. That's also an interesting path. Is Solo? Where does Solo go after all this? Solo does get a win over Roman, let's say at Bad Blood. What is next for Solo? Where does he go from there? Does he get another title match? Maybe that's how they kind of hold over Cody and Solo and Roman and all these guys again. But I do completely agree again. I think a Kevin Owens heel turn makes a lot of sense too. Very wrestling booking way of doing it. They've done that kind of booking before. It's very common in a good way. Again, common can be good. Um, the typical, oh, Roman screwed so many people, and now you're going to be okay with them. I'm not okay with you being okay with him. It's a little complicated, but it does make sense. Um, I would like to see it. There's a lot of ways they can go with it again. There really are a million avenues. If you watched the Mania 40 doc on YouTube that released exactly when they said it was going to release, um,
I think they released it early.
I do think they released it
Yeah.
early, about 6 months early.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. But that doc, they had even said in there how they were booking day by day at a point. They really were not booking as far out as they normally would because the fans, the reactions, everything was changing things. And I think they were holding on to that type of booking with this. I do think they have plans, but I think there's derivatives that they can split. There's detours they can take in those plans, those routes, and they can go many avenues. And I'm here for it. I think there's a lot coming up. The Rumble's a little far out, but there's also the Rumble. Is Roman in the Rumble? Does he win the Rumble? Solo? Like, where do they go with that? There's so many avenues. I'm looking forward to it. Bad Blood again is very set up this year to be a blood rivalry type show. Roman versus Solo should main event, in my opinion. I don't really see any other feud being over that right now. But how do you do it? How do you have Solo go over Roman? Typical bloodline coming after him. Roman has no friends type feud. That again is very common in wrestling. It's about as common as the rock star in a jungle themed movie. But I'm here for it. I want to see it. I want Roman versus Solo at Bad Blood, main event it. Let's see it.
I think quick fantasy booking, you get Roman Solo. Solo gets help from his bloodline 2.0. Roman doesn't have the people on his side. Then Roman gets the numbers to help him. They go, man for man, band for band. That match happens. Then the Roman Solo rivalry finishes with a true tribal war, whatever the hell they were calling it, where there is no involvement of anyone. What him and Jay was supposed to be, and they ended up just breaking their own rules at SummerSlam last year, where no one can get involved. We will settle this. Now, to me, it makes more sense because you've got more members of the family involved, and that's where it all ends. And maybe that's how you bring The Rock into it, where The Rock tries to get involved, whatever that may be. I think Roman Solo is your route. I don't know if it is a WrestleMania in Vegas main event or opener. That's large shoes for Solo, but Roman sells it himself. Whatever he does basically is main event worthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if Solo versus Roman is Mania main event, but Roman sells himself. Um, Given as well, should have touched on this. I did even mention the pay per view, but I'd rather Roman versus Solo be at Bad Blood rather than Saudi. But we know Roman is loved over there. They're going to want Roman on that show, Saudi. Roman likely is there. He's likely on that show. So what's the match? Those cards are a bit more famous for being more so exhibition type cards. They have held a little bit more value under Triple H. Hell, we have a new world heavyweight champion that won a tournament that finalized there. So maybe we're going to start getting more important events in these Saudi shows. But you know he's going to be there, just likely. Bad blood. Do you then take him off TV till the Rumble? Well, you have Survivor Series. You know he's involved in that, we'd assume. But after that, do you hold them off to the Rumble? Like, then what? How do you keep this going? There's not usually a December show, you know, because they're doing a late November and then holding out for the Rumble. It's a lot of time to fill. There's a lot of weeks of wrestling to fill with this feud. I need to see more Roman, I think, now than we did when he was champion.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Survivor Series is mid to late November, roughly,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Rumble's February 1st. That's we'll call it 6, 7 weeks. If he doesn't show up for 2 or 3 of those weeks, it's only, I say it's only 4 weeks of television, still a lot of weeks, but it's manageable. I mean, they've done it before, they've dragged it out before. I don't know if it was always the right decision, but we know they're willing to do it, and they're never in a rush, especially when it comes to this multi-year bloodline storyline.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the greatest storyline of all time. And we can go on about that. I'm not even going to touch too deep on it, but it's not over, is my point. It's still going. There's going to be so much history to look back on. And listen, even the solo Roman thing, let's say this does conclude at Mania. Who cares? Let's just say that is the match Roman versus Solo at Mania. That ends the Roman Solo feud. He faced Cody, already lost, whatever. Maybe he gets a Rock match. There's a whole other layer in Fatu still. You know, there's a whole other layer to this future bloodline story. There's other potential bloodline members that I don't want to touch too deep on because they're not even signed to the company, but there's rumors that circulate. This story could be ongoing for years. This is only a blip in it, realistically. But we're in a very hot period of wrestling right now. A lot coming up again. I'm looking forward to it all. I really am. I want to see anything and everything bloodline. But I think their focus mostly right now should be on singularly Roman Solo and how do you really set up tribal warfare at War Games? What is the matches or the competitors in the match? How do you do it? Typical War Game style. That's what I want to book. I want to see War Games tribal warfare.
You said you're excited. I'm excited. I'm also excited for the future of this channel. We are churning away. We got our hard hats on here. We're going
Absolutely.
we're hard pails, whatever the hell it is. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, share, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Twitter. Give Snowden a follow on his personal account. Give him some love. We got a ton more coming. Make sure you're tuned in. C2 Wrestling. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.